The earth is in crisis. All around us, we are witnessing the collapse of Western civilization. And what is the catalyst for this collapse? The death of God. The stone which the builders rejected once became the cornerstone of our civilization. But now we dig at our foundation and see in dismay that this great castle which we have built has no cornerstone at all. Our civilization was founded upon the belief in God. Our laws, our social contracts, our understanding of history and of our destiny, our very understanding of what it means to be human, are all founded upon faith in the Christian God. And without this belief, everything goes. Nietzsche sums up the gravity of our situation well in the Gay Science. Now that this faith has been undermined, how much must collapse because it was built on this faith, leaned on it? For example, our entire European morality, this long, dense succession of demolition, destruction, downfall, upheaval that now stands ahead. Who would guess enough of it today to play the teacher and herald of this monstrous logic of horror, the prophet of deep darkness and an eclipse of the sun, the like of which has never before existed on earth? Well, Nietzsche was that prophet of darkness. He saw this catastrophic collapse coming, the total eclipse of Western civilization. He was before his time, but now this collapse is apparent all around us. Some place their hopes on a separation from society, some sort of breakaway community. They are like the saint in the woods at the beginning of Nietzsche's Zarathustra, who does not yet know that God is dead. Some righteously defend the old morals and sentiments. They are like the Roman aristocracy clinging to their old gods when the new god had already been born. Those who cling to the corpse of Western civilization will perish. They seek to defend this corpse from scavengers and predators, but the West already lays rotting in the hot sun like a beached whale. Western culture is already dead. We can smell the rot all around us and see the flies thickening the air. The best we can hope to do is to resurrect the spirit of our father, which is trapped in its belly. But as of now, nothing is being done towards this end. It is not our spirit which is ascendant. In the wake of the collapse of the old world order, the transhumanists seek to fill the power vacuum. They see the same problem that we do, but they are of a fundamentally different type, and thus their solution, the expression of their will to power, is fundamentally different and opposed to ours. Klaus Schwab, foremost among the transhumanists, imagines a future in which mass man is highly regulated, and a global conglomerate of transnational corporations serves to rule over and regulate humanity. He views himself and those of his type as the ones who will shepherd humanity into a transhumanist future, in which the biological and technological worlds will merge to form a smoothly running and highly regulated machine. Nietzsche predicted such a future. He believed that the New World Order would bring about a leveling of mass man into one obedient, mindless herd, a sickly herd with no creative energy or will. We already see this happening all around us. We must face the stark reality of our situation. Most people will not make it. Most people will become the chattel of the state without resistance, even happily. They are easily manipulated and led by the tarantulas who use Enlightenment values to clothe their will to power in a veil of virtue. The preachers of equality, as Nietzsche called them. Nietzsche believed that mass man would go down a path of ever-increasing mediocrity and increasing sickness of body and spirit, until he degenerated into a barely conscious creature of the type seen in 1984 and Brave New World. Nietzsche called this type of man the last man. In Thus Spake Zarathustra, Nietzsche describes this last man. No shepherd, one herd. Everybody wants the same, and everybody is the same. Whoever thinks differently goes voluntarily into the madhouse. Formerly, all the world was insane, say the most subtle of them, and they blink. One is clever and knows everything that has ever happened, so there is no end of derision. One has one's little pleasure for the day and one's little pleasure for the night, but one has a regard for health. We have invented happiness, say the last men, and they blink. As mankind becomes increasingly integrated with the machinery of economy and state, he will become a mere cog in a giant clockwork. Man himself will become a machine, a worker drone in a vast superstructure which is beyond his comprehension. This mechanized mankind is Schwab's vision for the future, the so-called integration of the digital and biological spheres. But the situation is not hopeless. Nietzsche believed that the collapse of Western civilization and the leveling of mass man would give the opportunity for a higher type of man to arise who manages to preserve himself apart from the herd and not become a sickly, demoralized cog in the machine. Nietzsche addressed his books to these men who have the will and daring to rise to the challenge of the death of God and transform themselves into something greater. For this reason, Nietzsche viewed the collapse of our civilization with hope. He writes, "The consequences for ourselves are the opposite of what one might expect. Not at all sad and gloomy, but much more like a new and barely describable type of light. Happiness, relief, amusement, encouragement, dawn. Indeed, at hearing the news that the old God is dead, we philosophers and free spirits feel illuminated by a new dawn. Our heart overflows with gratitude, amazement, foreboding, expectation. Finally, the horizon seems clear again, even if not bright. Finally, our ships may set out again, set out to face any danger. Every daring of the lover of knowledge is allowed again. The sea, our sea, lies open again. Maybe there has never been such an open sea. Destruction always paves the way for new growth. Our civilization is in decline. Our culture has become decadent, and we have become nihilistic and lethargic. Most of us no longer have the will to create. We are demoralized and resigned to a dystopian future. But for the few who still have the daring, energy, will, and desire for danger which is present in all healthy spirits, the collapse of our civilization signals a new dawn. Those who have lost the will to live see nothing but darkness and gloom on all sides, but we free spirits see this as an opportunity to embark on the greatest adventure in human history. If we are up to the task, we have the unique opportunity to create something completely new. As Nietzsche writes in Thus Spake Zarathustra, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. Is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we not become gods simply to appear worthy of it? Our challenge is to become worthy of the death of God. With God dead, we must now turn our eyes to man. What does it mean to be human without God? What is man? What shall man become? These are all questions which Klaus Schwab is asking and answering in a serious and actionable way. But we are revolted by the transhumanists because their solution to the challenges of modernity are fundamentally nihilistic. Their instinct is a leveling instinct, the instinct to make small, to homogenize, to regulate, to make things safe and sterile, to nullify all dangers. They reject this world and the body and seek to transcend them by creating an artificial world into which we can escape. In contrast, Nietzsche's solution represents a fully human future. We understand that mankind must fundamentally change in order to adapt to the challenges of modernity, but we seek to do this by improving ourselves, not making our environment safe or escaping our reality. We put our faith in this world and in our bodies. We seek to confront danger head-on with daring and tenacity. We remain faithful to the earth and to our bodies, which have been crafted over thousands of years of evolution and which contain the whole history of mankind within them. And this vision of the future, which encourages human flourishing and excellence, gives us hope. We few who are still creative spirits, we who still have chaos in our souls, see the potential for the creation of something great, for the transformation of man into something sacred, into a work of art. We are given the chance to be like Prometheus, far thinkers and daring creators, and to sculpt something out of ourselves which will justify mankind's bloody and treacherous journey up to this point. In Thus Spake Zarathustra, Nietzsche writes, "Behold, what fullness is around us, and from amid this superabundance it is delightful to look out upon distant seas." Once people said God when they looked out upon distant seas, but now I have taught you to say Overman. God is a conjecture, but I do not wish that your conjecturing reach beyond your creating will. Could you create a God? Then I urge you, be silent about all gods. But you could well create the Overman. Perhaps not you yourselves, my brothers, but you could transform yourselves into fathers and forefathers of the Overman, and let that be your best creating. But, as Jordan Peterson likes to harp on, we can't just arbitrarily shape ourselves into the Superman out of thin air. The creation of a higher type of man will take time and requires a sturdy foundation. It is our task to create the framework and the foundation for the creation of a higher type of human being. Nietzsche was the first to embark on this task, which he called the Transvaluation of All Values. We can no longer rely on the values of the West to protect us. Who can sincerely call on God and invoke natural rights when their tweet is censored on Twitter? When Klaus Schwab says, "You will own nothing and you will be happy," who can sincerely respond, "But wait, you can't force me into a pod. God gave me the right to own property." To create something new, we need fresh values which are still full of energy and creative potential. We need a framework for looking at the world which is powerful and which inspires, one which can compete with the transhumanist vision for the future. And it is our task to create this framework. This means that we must look back at all of history and reconsider what is valuable to us and what will serve to carry us into the future. We must test everything with a hammer and see what is strong. This is a demanding task and a harsh one, for much needs to be discarded. This is the transvaluation of all values. Nietzsche provided the critical foundation for thinking pragmatically about the future, but did not get to complete the transvaluation of all values. This will be the aim of my new video series. We will explore the foundational myths and stories of our civilization in an attempt to abstract new values and, at the same time, ancient values, and understand our position in history. I believe that the life of the modern man is still full of mythological and religious meaning, perhaps even more so than ever before. and we need only look to our most ancient myths to uncover this well of meaning. We are like Noah before the flood. It is our task to decide what is valuable to us and what will survive the deluge. And once we have salvaged everything we can from the wreckage of Western civilization, and the flood has passed, we can begin to build the foundations of new structures with our ancient building blocks, structures which will last centuries to come. I will end with a reading from Thus Spake Zarathustra, on the tree on the mountain. Know that the noble man stands in everyone's way. The noble man stands even in the way of the good. The noble man wants to create something new and a new virtue. The good man wants the old and to preserve the old. Alas, I have known noble ones who lost their highest hope. They then slandered all high hopes. They lived shamelessly in brief pleasures and barely cast their goals beyond the day. Spirit too is lust, they said. Then the wings of their spirit broke, and now their spirit crawls about and soils what it gnaws. Once they thought of becoming heroes. Now they are voluptuaries. The hero is for them an offense and a terror. But by my love and hope, I beseech you, do not throw away the hero in your soul. Hold holy your highest hope. Thus spake Zarathustra.